Howdy neighbor. So even though we're in the middle of the winter, there's a ton of harvesting to do, especially tropical fruit harvesting. How crazy, right? So what we're gonna be doing today is I'm gonna be going around and harvesting some of the biggest parts of my January harvest. I have bananas I need to harvest. I have calamandins I need to harvest. Sweet potatoes. We're gonna see if anything came of my sweet potatoes. Maybe a couple oranges, and I'm also gonna grab a couple papayas. Plus I think there might be a little bit of this and that I need to grab. So join me today, come hang out, and let's go see what we can go harvest for January in Florida in the middle of winter. This calamandin is like so full. It's leaning over from the weight of the fruit right now, which is crazy, right? Because I feel like when you're not from Florida, like citrus just seems so tropical that it probably seems weird that it usually gets ripe in the winter time. Like most of citrus harvest is in the winter. It starts in fall, but like late fall, and then it kind of picks up in the middle, and then it ends in like early spring. Basically the trick for citrus season is it's the opposite of hurricane season. Fun fact. So usually my calamandins, I always get a big harvest right around the new year. Yeah, so I need to start pulling this in. I've been hesitating because I haven't wanted to in the middle of the holidays deal with processing all of it, and I had to talk to Ben about like what do we want to use this for this year, because last year we did calamandin juice, the year before we did all of it as marmalade. Now I'm a big fan of calamandins. These are the fruit that I told you guys, like it kind of tastes like lemons, it kind of tastes like limes, or kind of in between. My neighbor says they taste a little bit like kumquats, so if you're wondering what they taste like, that's what they taste like. And they're cute. Look at them. So cute. You can eat them just like straight up. I have. They are very sour, very tart. But they have such a great smell. One year, I think, was it like 3 years ago? I collected a lot of these and I put them like in a really pretty vase for, I think it was Thanksgiving or Christmas. It was really pretty. Oh, I love the smell of these. They are not, I know I say they taste like lemon or lime, but they don't. It's different. I don't know how to explain it. It's just different. It's not like oranges, it's not like lemons, it's not like limes. It's like kind of, but it's like a sour orange, or I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it to you guys, but it is really good. Hence the best marmalade ever. So talking to Ben, I had made marmalade like a couple years ago, but I overcooked it. So he was saying like it would be good to get some more. I don't use marmalade a lot. He's the one who likes to make like little biscuits with marmalade on it or bread with marmalade on it, but me, I don't know. I just don't really like having too sweet of stuff that isn't chocolate that often, so I don't know. Though I do like putting it in like a chocolate cake, but like how often do I eat chocolate cake? Not that often. Now I'm assuming this one was store-bought from the previous owners, because all the ones I've propagated from this one have thorns on it, which is pretty common with wild citrus. So I wouldn't be as loosey-goosey with sticking my hand in it. My other calamandins have thorns on them. I usually prune them off. Now the cool thing about calamandins is they do not need to be totally ripe for you to use them. So you can see some of the variation, like this one looks a little bit greener. I find that as soon as they start to turn orange, that they're basically good enough to use. Even this green. Once they get past kind of like their darkest green, that's when I feel like they're ready to go for like if I'm gonna use them for like a calamandin juice, or like a calamandin aid, like think lemonade, but like with these things instead, or even marmalade. I've used them as like light as this, but you can let them go all the way orange. The big thing is just you don't want to lose them because they fall on the ground, because it's pretty fast after stuff starts falling on the ground, it starts to rot. This one, unlike an orange, like you wouldn't really be as worried about like rats and stuff because they're not sweet, they're very tart. That pests are just generally not that interested in them. Bugs are. Bugs, once they start to like rot on the ground, they'll be like, yeah, we'll eat them. but rats, I've never seen them have any interest in them. If you don't use your pruning shears, like what ends up happening is like you end up ripping the branches off, which I don't know how good or bad that is for the plant. Generally, I feel like that would be like not a great idea. But then what the reverse could happen is it rips open the top, which if you're gonna eat these fresh, like now your clock's really ticking really fast. But if you're gonna squeeze it into like, to make marmalade, actually it makes the processing a little bit easier. Anytime you start squeezing them, then having that opening, just like, it just accelerates the process. So it's kind of one of those things, like until you have experience, I would say prune. If you have some experience and you know what you're gonna make it into and you're gonna be quick about it, like it's not the end of the world, you know, that happens. They look so good. Now I'm not gonna pull everything off my calamondin today. I'm gonna let some of this come a little later, and maybe I'll just make like some fresh calamondin juice. But I want to get the bulk of these because I think what I'm going to end up doing is splitting this between like marmalade and calamondin juice, which from like a beginning of the processing standpoint isn't that big of a difference, like the starting point. You basically just squeeze it all out, and then some you separate the peels and you use them again, like in the marmalade, and then you juice it if you don't use them. It's cool. Little branches down in. This is not helping. Oh, but we got some big ones. Those are like a nice size. Got like a lot more, maybe because I didn't harvest so early this time. You know, now that I'm like probably 2/3 done, I'm like sitting here going like, why didn't I grab my micro pruners? I feel like the micro pruners are getting in and around leaves. Probably would have been better. But no, again. I feel like that was a pretty good harvest, huh? So now that we're done with calamondins, let's go head up front and start checking out our bananas, because I need to go pull that one rack that's like been ready for a hot minute. Sorry, snacking on some mulberries I grabbed on my way up front. But a lot of people always ask me like, how do you know your bananas are ready? And they're like different. Well, there's some general rules, like it doesn't matter what type of banana you have, but there's some rules where it's like, depends on the type. So like with the short answer is, it's like when the ridges start to disappear and they turn yellow is a general rule, unless you have like a red banana or blue banana. Actually, I don't know red bananas and blue bananas to comment. But I can tell you like my type, like they don't always get yellow. They've been fully ripe before and been very, very green. Like very green. So you can see they're pretty green right now, but like if I show you, like these ones are lightening up, but you can see like the ridges are really like pronounced still. These don't have enough like meat on the inside of them to really create a banana. So like even though you might see some yellowing down here because it's like it may think it's ready, really what you're looking for is these ridges to start smoothing out, and that's like a good indicator. But one of the tricks with my bananas, because Granane, other than like when the hurricanes hit, one of the like really easy ways I kind of know when they're ready is when the flower starts touching the ground. So I can tell, like just from a distance, that's like a good way for me to be able to be like, yeah, that's ready, and the other ones aren't, is when that flower starts hitting the ground, I'm like, oh, it's ready. And I think it's just due to the weight and the strength of the trunk, like that just is how the timing tends to work out on these Grananes. That does not work for many, many other types, but this one I found to be true over and over again, so it's one of my easy tricks. See this bunch of bananas, the flower, because I didn't cut it off, is way down here on the ground, it's like hanging out. Versus this one that probably has like a good month or so left. You can see the flower isn't on the ground yet, and then there's like another bunch over there and the flower's way off the ground, and then there's another one up there and the flower's really far off the ground. So like I said, that's just like my really silly easy way to be able to tell from a distance that one is ready and the other is not. Now you could, if you wanted, start cutting bunches off without like harvesting the whole thing. I'm gonna harvest the whole thing because I need to start building back my stock of bananas just for general use. So with the rate at which we usually have them ripen when they're like this, about half of them we'll use fresh and then the other half will end up getting frozen. So it isn't as very big of a deal to me to be like, because it's gonna keep getting cold out here and you can see the bananas are not happy about it. So I'd rather just take this whole thing in and let it ripen up instead of it continuing to get like damaged from the cold. It's kind of my thought process. But that would be an option if you were kind of in like a better season. You could just like take a bunch off. Now the other one thing is that once you take it off, you're gonna have sugar water dripping, which could attract some boogies and buggies that may not be as beneficial for your bananas. Shouldn't be a terrible problem, but something to watch because bananas are full of water, sugar water. Now the big thing when you're cutting off a hand is you don't want to do it right as the little, okay, so hand is like the whole, what you might call bunch at the store, but like the hand is this, and then the fingers are the bananas. So I try to cut off this like, I don't know how, come closer, you see. I try to cut in here to keep the hand together. And then I'm putting my hand underneath the bananas just to carry some of the weight. And then boom, boom, and now I have a hand. Yay! I don't like to use like my hatchet machete at this point because what I found is we damaged way more bananas and that caused problems, especially as you're letting them ripen on the counter, because sometimes you would cut some and not realize it. And now you've got rotting banana like in the middle of other bananas, which causes them to rot. So that's when I moved over to pruners because then it was like easier to control what I was doing. Bam, another hand.
Oh, that's so cool.
So let's see. So I got one full hand off and it looks like we have 2, 3, 4, 9. Once we hit the 9th hand, then they get really puny and small, and sometimes that's usually where I see a lot of them go bad before we ever really get to use them. But if they don't go bad, especially like once we get into some of the ones that will come in spring or fall, those are the ones I like to give to my neighbors' kids because they're like really cute, like little ones. Like that's not the ones I'll ever sell in the store because they're so tiny, but like I feel like little kids really enjoy the like hand-sized bananas for themselves. And it is super normal to have little wildlife friends hanging out. Oh no, I did so good cutting it all off as one and now it's in like 3 pieces and we damaged one, so bummers. But what I was gonna say is it's totally normal to find little like wildlife friends in here. Snails, frogs, lizards. Lizards are usually pretty quick to get out of your way, but frogs will just like, we've had frogs end up in the house. So you do wanna give your bananas a good rinse before you bring them in the house, just to get any of your wildlife friends a chance to get out of there. So you always want to examine your hands. So like you see something like this where you see one that's super discolored compared to the rest of them, that usually means something along the way has damaged it. So get that out quickly so that your whole hand doesn't rot on you. Come on. And yeah, just feed it back to the banana. It's fine. Lots of bananas. So I've been going through the garden. There's a couple things I'm gonna grab out of the veggie garden, which is the green onions have gotten quite overgrown. And we're gonna be making green onion soup, so I'm gonna grab some of those. And then there's a few peppers that should be grabbed. Yes, let's do that really quick. These are huge. Got old jalapeno. Okay, we grabbed some veggies. Now we're gonna grab one of the papayas. None of them are ripe yet. They continue to still linger. But one of the ones that was at the bottom, that's been there since before Hurricane Ian hit, we're gonna harvest it because some of y'all have sent us some green papaya recipes. And instead of waiting until like we have too many pounds of papaya to figure out if we like something, we figured we harvest one on the greener side, but that's pretty close to being ready. And then try the recipe, or two, depends, because it's a pretty big papaya, and see what kind of things we like so that once we have a lot, you know, we're better prepared. Because that was one of my learnings from last year is, you know, new things that you haven't had a lot of recipes for, like start testing and prepping before you have 50 pounds of papaya or whatever plant and you're not sure what to do with it. And you can see this papaya has gotten huge. Oh my goodness. So we're gonna just cut that one off. We have a lot of green on this table, but up next is we're gonna go dig in and see what happened with the sweet potatoes. I started them a lot later than I normally would, and with a lot of weird weather, I'm not really sure how they did. And I've done some poking around and I don't know. So we need to dig in and see, did we get any sweet potatoes? I hope we did, because otherwise then, I hope we did. So let's go see. What do we got going on? So here is our sweet potato bed. And like how it is in the north, you know, a lot of the greens died back in all these cold snaps. But usually you'll see a little bit of potato sticking through. But I had topped this off earlier this year, so hopefully there are some sweet potatoes hiding in there. One of the first things I need to do is I need to get all these vines out of my native wildflower area because I really don't want sweet potatoes popping up in here. That's not the goal. So we got to clean this up and then we'll start digging in there and find out, what do we got? What can we find? You can tell I'm lacking confidence because I brought this size bowl out here. I'm that not confident about my sweet potato harvest this year. Okay. I'm not seeing anything. Roots like this, but not tubers per se. I'm honestly not seeing much of anything here. So I am not seeing anything. Ben has come out here to join me to see what he can find. But so far, I mean, we got like a couple small tubers. I think a couple things, unless he suddenly reveals El Dorado down in there of sweet potatoes. The big thing I'm thinking is that between our shade issues, me starting the sweet potatoes really late this year compared to when I've normally done them.
I thought I found one, but it's a big piece of work.
I think those things, because I know a few others said that they had some bad sweet potato years. Maybe it's just one of those years. It didn't really, and you know what? We honestly didn't harvest as much sweet potato greens. That shouldn't matter, but maybe it would have forced it to try to store more energy in tubers. So what we'll just do is, honestly, we'll just bury the vines, let it keep going, and then harvest next year. Oh wait, next year. It is next year. So we'll harvest later this year. That's okay. That's a big bummer. I was counting on us having some sweet potatoes. Well, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose them. That's why you also do variety, because some stuff's just not gonna do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, it's the spice of life.
Variety is the spice of life. Now, before we get into the numbers of what I harvested, I did want to give you kind of a brief preview of what we think we may be harvesting in February, and just like a quick, like, here's what the garden looks like. Because I know this is helpful for a lot of us to see like what's working in other people's garden, so that we can go like, do I need to adjust? Is it me or is it Florida? So some of the things that are happening in my garden, zone 10A right now. So as we head into February, I'm sure we'll get some more cold snaps, but I can see I'm getting a lot of flowering in these tomatoes that have become a wild patch over here. So we might have some tomato harvest, maybe. As I clean up my arches, I will be harvesting the last of the loofah to make into sponges. We may have another pepper or two. Oh, I guess I missed a pepper. I'll have to grab that before I walk in. While the pumpkins are going, they flower on occasion, but they're not actually doing it in a way that's gonna get us set a pumpkin yet, but maybe in February they'll set one. Depending on how our recipe goes, I have tons of green papaya for future recipes, so we have that going for us. We'll of course have a couple more peppers. I don't expect anything out of here. And then back here we do have carrots that we probably could have pulled today if we wanted to, but we don't need to. So we've got some carrots in there. Strawberries are starting to come in. I've been snacking on a couple here and there. More carrots over there. I'm starting to thin those ones out. And these are the strawberries that Connie sent me, and they are starting to flower. So I'm looking forward to these setting fruit too. When it comes to the backyard garden, I mean, it's just really good going, but I expect that in February I should be able to harvest some amount of lettuce. That's probably the big thing, lettuce. Oh, and some baby spinach. I think those will be some of the things that I'll be able to like do a quick turnaround within like, 30 days. Okay, so let's grab our stuff. Let me go get the scale and my planner so I can start putting down my January harvest numbers. It's time to start documenting, what did we harvest? How much did we harvest? What I always like to do first before I start weighing is just to make sure I don't forget anything that I harvested. It's like a day like today where we've got a lot of stuff. I like to make sure that I put in my planner first what it is that I harvested, and then the next thing I'm gonna do is start weighing. And if you want to get the scale, I can link it down below. Plus, if you want to get the planner, go to www.wildfloridian.net/planner. It both helps you figure out what to plant and when to plant it, but also helps you track the things that you did. So let's go ahead and start weighing. We're gonna start first with our papaya. This, I'm gonna guess, is like 2 or 3 pounds. Hey, I called it. It's 2.5 pounds. Now, usually when I do a bunch of bananas, it's about 40 to 50 pounds of bananas. So just for you guys, this is 16 ounces to every pound. So I've got an extra, wow, that is a much smaller bunch than we've had in a long, long time. We're usually at least 40 pounds. So the fact that we didn't even crack 30, I wonder if that had to do with, because this bunch was on the plant when Hurricane Ian hit. So I wonder if all the stress caused it to divert sugars and stuff like back down to the rhizome instead of putting it towards pushing that banana to really produce. So, but it's neither here nor there. We got 24 pounds of banana that honestly, those plants have paid for themselves many times over. So it's a good start with still having 4 bunches on the plant as of today. Plus the one that usually produces a lot of pounds hasn't even put out a new rack for this year. So I feel like we're gonna be okay in the long run. And I think this is a really good number because last year I went and looked at my numbers. January, we only did like 28 or 29 pounds. So having a crop that's already 24 pounds plus the papaya, I mean, I think those together basically beat January last year. And isn't that great? Green onions is one of those ones, like, they aren't necessarily a lot of weight, but they do, about an ounce. They do save you quite a bit of money, and they're easy. They're super easy to go. Peppers, 4 ounces. I'm shocked we even get a pepper harvest in January. So these are plants that we planted February last year. So the fact that we're getting anything and in a very shady location, and after having extra cold snaps this year, yeah, I feel like that's pretty good. So one of the things that's nice about this, plus others, is that you can weigh it with the bowl, but I'm gonna have to, I could probably use this to zero it because they'll be pretty close to weight. Do is bam. So we got 4 pounds, 8 ounces. And what's nice what I did this year in the planner that I didn't have last year is now I have like a place where I can summarize instead of summarizing on a post-it note to then move it into the annual tracker. I think that's gonna be a little bit nicer. So when I look at the number for this year, we got 32 pounds, 12 ounces, which I feel like is really good. Because I feel like last year when I harvested everything that I possibly could to like get anything. And there's still a lot of stuff kind of growing that like I could have harvested it, but I'm like, I don't really need it yet. Like carrots and radishes and beets that we have up front. We could have used some cabbage leaves if we wanted to. There's still oranges that I could grab, but I'm not gonna grab quite yet. I definitely love colamondins and we'll grab some of those in February. So 32 pounds, 12 ounces. I feel like a very good start to the year. I haven't really figured out what my goal for the year is. I think probably 500 pounds is a good number to kind of target. The big thing I want to do is get more variety and really up my vegetable numbers. And then I have some specific targets. So, and we can go over that in another video where I think what I should do is I needed to give the summary still for last year. So we'll do that too. And if you need help with what to grow and when to grow it, go ahead and get your free seasonal gardening guide from www.wildfloridian.net/guide. And if you want to pick up the planner so you can have like even more detail and help yourself track, go ahead and pick that up at www.wildfloridian.net/planner. And I hope this helped inspire you to get out there, get gardening, get growing. Doesn't matter what time of year it is, you can always be doing some food growing here in Florida. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.